The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now all blinged up, and even if you're not a Bucs fan, I'm saying you're a Chiefs fan, you were in the stadium and you watched your team lose the Super Bowl, you gotta admit, it's a really nice ring. Maybe the nicest Super Bowl ring ever created. At least that's what Tom Brady is calling it, and he now has 7 of them. So with this ring, it is all in the details. 319 diamonds to commemorate the Bucs' 31-9 win over the Chiefs. 15 carats of white diamonds, 15 carats of yellow diamonds. The top comes off to unveil a miniature Raymond James Stadium inside, because the Bucs were the first team to win a Super Bowl at home. And it's just, let's face it, pretty incredible. Let's welcome in our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. We got a lot to talk about around the NFL. Training camp's getting underway. JJ, let's start with the rings. And here I am talking to you before we come on air, talking about how nice they are, how blinged up. And you say they're a little extra.
It's a lot, right? Like, there's a lot going on with these rings. And there's only so much you can do with rings. Like, at some point, like, it can't get any larger, right? Like, it still has to fit on your hand. And so, listen, I don't think that we need to go back to Super Bowl I and like the one diamond and just the little itty bitty ring. But this is really big. And then you decide, okay, well, we want to make this different, so we're going to remove the top, and now it's becoming this clown car of a ring. Like, look what's inside. You're just pulling things out of it. I mean, listen, they put a lot of work and effort into it. Do I want one of these rings? Yeah, I do. It'd be nice to have, but it's like, look at that. You don't need that. No one needs that.
Or so, maybe you do.
You know, listen, good on Tampa Bay, good on the Bucs, and you know, Brady can put ring 7 beside ring 1, and you know, it's just this gigantic, huge difference, and only separated by what, 20 or so years, but it's a clown car of a ring.
I can't believe you said that, but it'll be really interesting to see whoever wins in this upcoming season, what they're going to try to do to top that, because now that's what you got to do. All right, let's get into some serious business around the NFL. JJ, breaking news today, which you did confirm. Michael Thomas set to miss the beginning of the season for the Saints. He had surgery on his ankle in June, fairly late there, to repair some torn ligaments. And JJ, as you're pointing out, this really actually affects the quarterback battle there in New Orleans.
It does, and we're still trying to figure out why it was so late in the year. You go back to January when it was sort of understood that Michael Thomas was going to need surgery, but then he participates in minicamp OTAs and or one of those two, and then he has surgery in June. So that would indicate that maybe he thought that rest, and he and the doctors, of course, thought that rest would heal the injury. It would seem to indicate that that did not. And so then they decided to have surgery, which, according to the timeline, is going to take him out for the first couple weeks of the season. We're going to see how long that goes. But you have a legitimate quarterback competition there in New Orleans between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and now they're going to have to do it without Michael Thomas and those 3 guys that you see there who contributed some to varying degrees, and now they're going to have to step up. Of course, last year there was Emmanuel Sanders, there was Jared Cook. Both of those guys are gone. Enter Nick Vannett at tight end, and of course you always have Alvin Kamara there. He have more than 700 receiving yards. We're going to see how much he's utilized in the receiving game now that Drew Brees is no longer there, right? Because we knew how much Drew relied on him, especially in those last couple of years as the arm strength started to go. Is he going to be that same sort of receiving threat? He'll always be a threat, but will he still see the sort of prolific receptions and targets that he saw with Drew as opposed to Taysom or Jameis? So I am certain that the New Orleans Saints will be bringing in veteran free agent wide receivers. Who those guys are, obviously to be determined, but they're going to need some legitimate receiving threats, not just to provide that X wide receiver role for the quarterbacks in training camp, but also, of course, to significantly contribute to the team through the first couple of weeks of the season at the very least. So something that we are going to be closely monitoring here.
JJ, we talked to you yesterday when the news came down from the NFL about teams potentially having to forfeit games if they do have a COVID outbreak. Those games cannot get rescheduled. So now we're seeing pushback from some players, DeAndre Hopkins in particular, basically saying, look, I feel like the NFL is pushing me to do something I don't want to do, which is get vaccinated. He put this tweet out yesterday where he questioned his future in the NFL. He deleted it. After that, put out another tweet saying freedom, ? JJ, he's not the only one upset. The NFL had to see this coming, so how do they handle it?
Yeah, well, the NFL is going to keep going about business. So they put out the memo, and the memo is going to stand as is. We know for whatever reason or reasons that vaccinations are a polarizing topic here in this country and across the world. And so, because of that, it's no surprise that the same conversations that we're having with loved ones, with neighbors, are absolutely still happening in the NFL. And so, again, no surprise that there are varying opinions. Now, if you're the NFL or if you're any team, do you anticipate or expect or necessarily think that there is a need for those on the opposite side of DeAndre Hopkins to come out and say, hold on, here's why it is necessary? I think in a perfect world, you'd love that. But is that actually going to happen? We saw DeAndre Hopkins. We saw a couple others, in a sense, deleted tweet from Leonard Fournette. We obviously know the face of the anti-COVID vaccine, Cole Beasley, the Bills wide receiver. John Feliciano, the Bills offensive lineman, tweeted that he actually got the vaccine, tweeted out any number of misinformations, if you will, and wound up, again, deleting that tweet, thankfully, because I almost retweeted it, Amanda, and tried to point out all of the things that he had wrong, but I was actually going to have to thread it because there were so many things that were wrong with it. So you're hearing from a lot of normally outspoken players being outspoken right now. Some guys who are normally quiet go about their business, and DeAndre Hopkins historically has been one of those guys. So you see how strongly they feel about this. In truth, Amanda, if you're a top 100 NFL player and you're not vaccinated, you're going to make the team, right? There is sort of a, hey, we can't do without you. This is kind of hamstringing us if you don't get the vaccine, but we also want to win football games, and we'll just have to live with the restrictions or whatever place this puts us in with you. But if you are a down-the-roster guy, if you're vying for a spot, while the NFL and NFLPA are saying no team can cut a player because of his vaccination status, we all understand on a very basic level that if you're a guy competing against a vaccinated player and you are unvaccinated, and it's a fairly equal competition, the coaches are probably going to go with the guy who's going to give them less headaches. And that's true of vaccination status. That's true of off-the-field troubles. That's true really in life. And so I think that we're going to see that. I truly believe that we're going to see that. Our team's going to come out and admit it? Of course not, because they don't want grievances filed against them. And there will be grievances. Will they be won? Well, you got to prove it, and that's a hard thing to prove.
Let's talk about the Packers here. A couple things coming down today. Of course, they report to camp next Tuesday. We know not to expect Aaron Rodgers. You've told us that for months. We're not expecting that. But a report coming down today that it's not just the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, but now the Packers and Davante Adams have suspended long-term talks, and now they're in a bad place, JJ. What can you tell us?
Yeah, and, you know, if Aaron Rodgers does report because of financial issues, I would expect it to be a hold-in. So, in effect, it would be a holdout. I don't think that he's just going to come back there and say, all right, guys, all good. Just had a couple months. Had to get that out of my system. We're good now. No worries. As far as Davante Adams is concerned, he obviously wants to be paid a whole lot more money. And with all due respect to the guys that I'm about to name, Davante Adams deserves to have a higher average annual salary than Cooper Kupp, than Tyler Lockett, then Kenny Galladay. And there are plenty of other guys on that list, Robert Woods. You know, Davante Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the game today. He is a top 3 wide receiver. You could argue top 2. He is probably the best route technician in the NFL, maybe number 2. There, Keenan Allen has something to say about that. But all those things aside, Davante Adams very clearly, very basically should be paid around, or excuse me, at least $20 million per year. And it's hard when you get, if you're the Green Bay Packers and you look at the contracts that are out there, and it's DeAndre Hopkins, who's making north of $25 million a year, where do you go with Davante Adams here? Because that's doubling his average annual salary. And if you're Adams, hey, it's your time. You've been the good soldier on the team. You've been quiet. You've done what you're supposed to do, being that all-pro. And so you were going to ask for that kind of money. And so here he is in the last year of his contract. And it seems very, very clear that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be in Green Bay in 2022. I don't know how much of 2021 he's going to be there, and still plenty more to be worked out. But it seems that Davante Adams is saying, if you guys are not going to make me the highest paid highest paid wide receiver in the NFL for the final years of what is probably my prime, then let me go play somewhere else that either will make me that or has a better option at the quarterback position. So again, a lot of drama there in Green Bay, a normally stable franchise over the last decade plus, and plenty of turmoil now.
Our NFL insider Jonathan Jones, thanks so much for joining us. We'll try to get you a little bling there, maybe like a little replica or something, one of those ring pops. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. We'll check in with you very soon. All right, training camps. We've got a lot underway. We've got some coming up, and we here at CBS Sports HQ are doing a training camp tour. I got to tell you, Pete Briscoe is very excited about this. We're going to bring you live reports from all of these camps. Steelers Tuesday, Cowboys Wednesday, Ravens and Eagles, and then of course we got the Bucks on July 30th. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.